I did it! Alright, let's talk about Liege-Bastogne-Liege. The race itself is a race in Belgium. It's one of the most epic European classics. You start in Liège, go to Bastogne, which is approximately 120 kilometers in the south, and then you take another course back to Liège. And overall, it's 250k in length and some 4,400 meters of climb in total. The most interesting thing about it is that it's early in the season, and most of the time you'll have to expect harsh conditions. So like cold weather, rainy weather, sometimes snow, sometimes ice rain, sometimes even a glimpse of the sun. But most of the time it's going to be harsh conditions for cyclists because that's not the usual conditions you would like to ride in. But on the plus side, you'll be able to tick off one of the most epic classics in Europe on your bucket list. So now the question, why would anyone do something like this? Well, there are different reasons. Some of them are more specific for me. I think most people who participate in this race are just in for the fun of it. My personal motivation was to have an early checkup for the Rad am Ring 2024, which is a 24 hours race on the Nürburgring, and to have an overview of my training progress. Now let's get to the obvious question. How did it go? Well, pretty well, to be honest. And before I get to the racing part, let's start with the organization around the actual race. I was there with a couple of friends and colleagues. We were a group of 4, and we had an accommodation one day prior to the race, on the race day, and even one day after the race. So we still had breakfast before we hit the road after the race. The important thing about that is that you just decouple a lot of risks and failure sources. You'll have a really easy time if you take your time to get there, then to have a decent night's sleep, and then you wake up, you're almost at the start line, and then you just focus on your race. And also, after the race, you can just go easy, hang out, have a decent shower, have a good meal and a good night's rest, and then the day after go home. Or you can still stay longer and watch the race of the pros. All right, now to the race itself. You can start from 6:30 in the morning to 7:30 if you take the 250k. And I would definitely recommend to take an early start. The first section of the race is pretty flat. You can go in a group. It's mostly flat, and the group was going really well that I was going with. And yeah, well, we were flying over the course. I had my lights on, but the group was big enough that cars saw us, and there is traffic on the road. But everybody is aware that there is something going on on that day, and there's a lot of cyclists. And yeah, thanks Belgian people who were driving their cars on that day for taking care of the cyclists and to be tolerant. At kilometer 60, we arrived at the first aid station, and then I decided to skip the first aid station because I hadn't eaten anything yet. So my bars and nutritions were still at full, and I only drank a little bit because it was really cold, it was wet, it was raining almost all the time, and I didn't feel like I need a stop, so I just pushed on, and then the group dissolved. So from that point on, it was mostly a solo ride. I managed to join some smaller groups, some handful of riders here and there, occasionally take a group. But most of the time it was solo ride to the second aid station at 140 kilometers. On arriving there, I was literally frozen to a block of ice. I couldn't feel my hands. I had no feelings in my hands whatsoever. I almost couldn't manage to get off my gloves. And it was pretty frustrating. I'm not sure if you can imagine how frustrating it is if you can't use your hands. You can't do anything. I couldn't open up my helmet, nothing. The aid station itself was brilliant, was really great. It was they had oranges, they had bananas, they had apples, they had all kinds of energy bars. They had crackers, they had energy gels. What else did they have? Oh, most of all, they had 2 sorts of dishes of noodles. Brilliant, brilliant. This really made my day because I was kind of bonking at that point, even though I still had all the bars, but I don't like to eat these sugary, sticky energy bars and gels all day. So it really was great that they had these 2 dishes that weren't sticky and sugary and energy thingy at all, but they had decent noodle dishes. It was great. I only had to wait until I could grab the fork and the spoon, but I managed. All right, I replenished all my my beverages and my food and then pushed on. And then something interesting happened, which I have to explain. So prior to the race, a few days prior to the race, the course was changed by the organizers because it's my information. They weren't permitted to use all the segments on the original course. So they went around, put up some new arrows, and that was the course. Of course, you now had 2 courses. You now had 2 sets of arrows pointing in different directions. And I must have missed an arrow because at some point I was following the original course. I wasn't alone, so it wasn't that bad. But at 180 kilometers, so 40 kilometers from the second aid station, we realized that something's wrong. We're not seeing anybody. We're not seeing any spectators. We're not seeing any participants. So we stopped and checked our computers and displays, and then it soon emerged that we were off track. We were on the original track. We were on the original Liege-Bastogne-Liege course, but the current course was some 20 kilometers away. And now we had to take a decision. We had 2 options: pretty much follow the original route and continue until Liège, or track back to the current course and then continue on that. And I was in the second group, so I decided that it would make more sense for me to track back than to take the risk that I end up nowhere. I guessed it was 20 kilometers, but in the end it was 40 kilometers back to the current track. Yeah, but arriving there, I already saw that there are lots of participants, and the race was still going on, and I felt very relieved. In the end, it emerged that I even took a detour, I made a detour of 30 kilometers, and when I got back on the track at kilometer, 190, I already had 220k. So I still had 60 kilometers to go, but yeah, that's it. Such is life. And I decided it was fine. It was better than the first. This is how crazy I am. In this moment, the only thing that went through my mind is, hey, better this way than to take a shortcut. I'd better do 30k extra than to do a shortcut and to finish the race without with less distance than was planned. This is how I work. I don't know. All right, so back on the course at 220 kilometers on my bike computer. It took some 20k to arrive at the final aid station, where I really took my time. The sun came out. It was like an epiphany. And I was really depleted because my final aid station was 100 kilometers before. And so I think I ate a dozen pieces of orange and lots of crackers, energy bars. I just stuffed it in because I was bonking so bad. And then I also found these honey waffles. Incredibly great. If you're bonking, honey waffles are just the best. And then I replenished my beverages and hit the road again. And then straight out of the aid station, right into Le Radout. La Radout, Le Radout, I don't know. But it's one of the most epic climbs on Liege-Bastogne-Liege, and it's 2.7 kilometers and steep climb, some sections with 70% gradient in it. So really intense, really long for compared to the other climbs. But I managed, and in the end, the final 40 kilometers were really okay. I really got a second wind probably out of the last aid station with tons of honey waffles. And then I really even managed to bring up the pace a little bit. And but what really kind of fatigued me, and I really had enough of it, is it was always going up and down, up and down, up and down. It's never straight. Either you roll downhill, and you have 50 or 60k on your computer, or you're going uphill and really struggle. That's Liege-Bastogne-Liege, right? So it's very undulating, very hilly, slopey track, and that's the fun of it. Basically, I really recommend it to do it exactly because of that. Arriving at the finish was very unspectacular. Not there's music. The finish was organized really great. I didn't have to stand in line for long just to change back. They took the bib numbers off, so great service. I got a shiny medal at the finish. It's official. I am now a legend. Believe me or not, it is true. Few words to the aftermath. If you should consider to do this, I can definitely recommend it, but do your homework. It is essential that you cycle through the winter season. You can do it on an indoor trainer. That's basically my strategy, to spend most of the time and collect most of the cycling time on an indoor trainer. You should ride outdoors as well, just to get a feeling for the conditions, how your hands cope with the cold, under wet conditions. You should be aware what happens to your body and with you when you cycle under these harsh conditions. This is some experience that you won't be able to collect in your basement on an indoor trainer. So I definitely recommend to do this outdoors, and then just go for it. Don't think too long about it, or you won't do it. I can guarantee you, if you're in your right mind, you will find 1,000 reasons not to do it. But if you burn for it, and if you really love cycling, then you should definitely do one of these classics. And I can recommend Liege-Bastogne-Liege, because it's really beautiful, and the atmosphere and the people and the warmth and the spectators on the roadside, and the campers that are already there for the pros the day after. It's amazing. It's an amazing atmosphere. I really enjoyed it. I when I couldn't feel my hands, I swore that I would never ever do something that silly again in bad conditions, cold, rainy weather. Cycling was my last time, but already after the race in the evening at the restaurant, I already said that I would not live up to that. So I really recommend you do this, even if you only do the 80K or the 150K. Only 80K. I mean, how crazy does that sound? For most people, 80K is already a real challenge. So yes, and especially with the climbs and the course in the Ardennes. Do it, and just enjoy. All right, see you in the next video.